this is why explain. This is the movie explain. You will get na,
Flicktion is our new original series where we take the contentious topics of cinema and give you multiple angles to watch our participants have their hot takes collide. In this third episode, we're having a one-on-one conversation between a series fan and a feature film fan. We'll make them answer a series of questions one by one, and then afterwards, give them some time to respond to each other's answers. Now, let's meet our participants.
Hi, I'm Bea.
Hi, I'm Phileo, and you're watching Flicktion.
There are a lot of films po kasi na I think they're already explained na kahit sa one lang na kunin. Like, for me, I would say Candyman or probably yung basically mga magagandang horror films na alam ko. Like yun, Candyman, Jennifer's Body, yung ganun. And kapag series kasi parang hinahabaan mo And take it from my points, I'm a huge Marvel fan, and ever since they released their series like WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki favorite ko. Recently, Moon Knight. Every time na malapit na sila mag-end ng episode, you would think like, what's this going to be? And given that their scheduling has to be week after week, they would release a content, yung ganun. Parang makikurious ka lang. It would leave you in a way na you're theorizing what would happen next. Like you would think like, oh, what if Loki is really dead? Maybe he's in the afterlife already, experiencing hell in a way. Or you're going to say like, what if Wanda is about to go into a spiral of depression? What you're thinking. Then pagdating naman ng next episode, sasabihin mo, ay, mali para theories ko, mali pala predictions ko, yung ganun. It's like a bit of a waste of time na parang thinking na lang. Compared naman sa films, you have an exact ending. Even though it's not, there. Parang sometimes you still question the ending. Like, what does this mean? What does that mean? And one example of that is when I first watched yung Get Out ni Jordan Peele, sobrang nagandahan ako. And when the ending came, I was like, that's it. It's a pure happy ending. It's everything is explained. Storybook closed. Yung ganun. And then when there are online videos or online sites saying na this is why explain. This is the movie explain. You will get na, okay. So you wouldn't say na parang, oh, we need something else to clearly fit the ending of the character or something that, because it's already satisfying for the director. It's already satisfying for them to say na, gusto ko ganito na yung ending niya. Kasi, ayun nga, wala nang maggugulo sa aking kwento. And that's it.
So with series, I actually started getting into them around 2010 when I was in high school. And ang gusto ko sa series kasi, siya, marami siyang room to reset. And at the same time, each episode is also a story. Yung TV noon, kasi yung ngayon parang kasi ginagawa na nila ngayon parang long form movie. Pero noon kasi meron pang room na kung manood ka this week ng episode na to, usually pwede mo na siyang mag-get. Tapos kung hindi ka na manood next week, okay lang. And then, so on and so forth. Ganun lang. Pero ngayon kasi, ngayon it requires more commitment. But then, what I like about TV shows recently, especially sa Watchmen, it was a self-contained story. But then at the same time, each episode took a different point of view. Parang in a way, parang nag-iba din ng konti yung framing niya because it looked at a different character. And yun yung gusto ko sa TV series na in a way, you can have a rigid format of storytelling na once you establish that, pwede kang mag-break from that mold. I think an example I would give is Community. At face value ng Community is that it's a sitcom about 6-7 adults in community college. But each episode as it goes, parang it changed itself more and more. So kahit yun yung base story niya, pwede siya maging animated, pwede siya maging parody ng action, pwede siya maging style ng video games, style ng lumang animation, nag-iiba-iba siya. And yun yung hindi usually nagagawa sa movies. Kasi usually with the movie, I would parang isang lang siya. Usually it has to stick to one style. You can, parang ngayon mas naging complex siya. Pero with shows, you can do that with more time. And actually, I would also use WandaVision as an example. Kasi even though it was close to the Marvel template of, it was close to the Marvel template, at the same time, yung episodic structure niya of referencing a sitcom decade, parang may sariling kwento din yun. So, if you were a viewer of WandaVision casually, kahit na may patuloy-tuloy siya na element, if you enjoyed just episode 1 or just episode 7, parang makukontento ka na dun sa kwento na yun. Kasi kahit yun lang panoorin mo, kahit may, alam mong may kasunod pa siya at may kadugtong siya before that and after, at least ma-appreciate mo yung story niya in that given episode.
As a fan of Community, yes, I can see that there's a build-up na ginawa ni Dan Harmon. I applaud him. He's such a genius, period. I love Rick and Morty. I watch Community. I think after this one, babalikan ko. Pero there's some... Ayun ka! I'm laughing at the fact that I forgot pala that he parodies and makes fun of like the trope of movies. I mean, I would expect talaga as someone who loves Rick and Morty, who loves Community, to like, you know, make fun of the MCU in general. But then what I really love about the MCU is that they do not only mix already the idea of, you know, just action, sci-fi, yung ganun. They already have that build-up where they can also mix a little bit of comedy, like, my favorite sa mga recents yun, yung sa Shang-Chi, yung kakanta si Katie ng Hotel California to distract the enemies, then it doesn't work. Then at the end, the post-credit scene, spoiler alert, they do it with Wong. And parang, oh, it's such a cool, beautiful payoff. Pero sa Community naman, you have to do the build-up. You have to like introduce, like, I remember season 1, this is where the first episode, it starts with the Breakfast Club-ish, then it goes to the parody of 8-bit video games, then there's Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, where it's like a Rankin Bass, you know, version, which, love that. Then there's also yung parang yung parang they're just sitting in one room, they're deciding who will get the pizza, and then it's a build-up na parang when this character leaves, everything goes this. When this character leaves, it goes from another. Remedial Chaos Theory, best episode according to Watch Mojo. But then also one of my favorite episodes talaga. And then sa MCU, they have their own separate films na kino-combine na nila. And sometimes films are good at combining two different genres, whether they be from the different spectrum or they just be as one. They could combine that in a way na parang, it kind of works. Na-establish na ng first movie. Kapag na-establish na ng first movie, edi you cannot go into that trope. I mean, yes, you can mix it, pero how are you going to incorporate it with the genre? Like, if you want to mix sci-fi and horror, like, you know, The Thing or Alien, yung ganon, then it has to be in the first movie. It has to be explained. If you want to mix action and kung fu, then make it like Shang-Chi. You have to be explained. Kasi kapag series talaga, kailangan mo i-build up yan. Pero kapag movie, standalone na talaga yan. Mahirap talaga yan. Kaya nagandahan nga ako na once that happens, it just happens. That's it.
Okay, my only rebuttal is I only have 2 shows, Lost and Grey's Anatomy. So their first episodes had a lot of building up to do. But then at the same time, they also had to be their own self-contained stories. So any viewer who wanted to look forward to more episodes of those can follow it weekly. But anyone who didn't want to check it out didn't have to, weren't obligated to, because obviously they're pilots. So pilots are the industry term for first episodes, and so with those first episodes, a lot can go wrong if you don't make a good first impression. But if it goes well, then you can build up a good audience. And in the case of Lost and Grey's Anatomy, they were a big hit for their network in the US, ABC. And as a result, they had a large audience for several years. Actually, even Grey's Anatomy is still going on today somehow. And though I think the thing about TV series that you don't really have room for in movies is that sometimes the audience wants the build-up. For me, the biggest difference between movies and TV shows is that TV shows have plenty of room to tell their story. Of course, both films and TV shows are good ones, are character driven. But with a TV show, you have more room to build character. So Gilmore Girls, yeah, it's about a mother and daughter in Stars Hollow, a small town named Stars Hollow. And the daughter is given an opportunity to start school at a private school. And so it's really about the community in Stars Hollow as well as the community that the daughter faces in the private school she studies at. So it's really a small town story. Like if you watch the pilot, you would think that as a movie it would not really hold much urgency. But as a TV show, I think week to week, even though its stories aren't as quote unquote big as the ones you would see in a major biopic, I would say, or in a blockbuster spectacle type of movie. The thing you can enjoy from a TV show such as Gilmore Girls is that week to week, or in the case of streaming now, you can binge watch it. There is a story that you can settle into, that's focused on character, that's focused on small moments, so that you don't really have to you don't really have to wait for a big moment just to enjoy it. You can just let the small moments carry you into each episode. And in a way, it's those small moments that tell a unique story about family, that tell a unique story about getting along with your community. So I would say between films and TV shows have more room to tell smaller stories and make them seem important.
Yung film para sa akin, it gets its point directly in a way. That's why kind of, if you like standalone films, magugustuhan mo sila kasi they already have it. They have the beginning, the middle, the end. And you don't have to expect a sequel to happen. Like, let's say Crimson Peak. Favorite kong Guillermo del Toro film, favorite kong film ng crush ko, and one of my favorite horror films kahit hindi siya sinasabi na horror siya. Actually, alam mo, mukhang parang lahat ng mga series na pinapanood ko currently sa Marvel, naging connected sila sa film. Just to say. Like, WandaVision is connected to Multiverse of Madness. What is this? Loki became ganun. But coming from me, parang I'm a huge Umbrella Academy fan. I haven't touched upon the comics yet, but then I know about them. And yes, as an emo fan, I love Gerard Way. My Chemical Romance, anyone? And something that I really love is that, ayun nga, film siya. If ginawa siyang film yung ganun, parang magiging, I could see it as like a Watchmen film style, yung ganun. Na parang you have this wacko kind of group who could, save the universe. Who could save the universe in a way. And parang naano kasi sa kanila. Parang silang isipin mo na parang silang, the Dark Avengers. Not that one, I mean. But parang dark, sarcastic Avengers, like meron kang The Brute na si Luther, meron kayong parang sarcastic one na si Klaus, meron kayong tahimik lang na si Ben, si Allison yung parang si Black Widow, ewan, because she's the only girl. Then si Victor yung parang si I don't know who Victor be, sadly. But I would love to see that in a way because honestly, they really have that startup even though they started out separately in the pilot where they're all separated and they only come together because their dad died. And then once that happens, when I see it on film, I'll be like, this is like a Suicide Squad Avengers kind of style because you have like this darkish tones from the writing of Gerard Way, praise be the emo god. And then you have this, very wacky kind of like, very splurty of blood, hearty and blood style like Watchmen.
Off the top of my head, I would say Eternals because it was actually, despite what most people thought, it was actually a pretty solid movie. And ironically, even if some people thought it was too slow, at the same time, if it had really taken the time, if it had been given time to build its characters, kasi ang dami din nila because there are a lot. So if they were given like 10 episodes to tell that story, I think it would be more weighty because it's a very central premise of a group of basically immortal beings over thousands of years. I think that premise alone should warrant a series instead of a movie because even if you have the visual scope of a movie for that kind of story, if you don't really have the space as with a TV show to tell the character's story, I don't think the visuals would be the beauty of the visuals would be matched. And yeah, so Eternals. And another one, I don't know if you guys know this, but I hope someone makes Cleaners a TV show. I don't know if you know that movie. It was this Pinoy movie from Glenn Barrett, and so it covered a school year in the lives of high schoolers in Tuguegarao. And so it was already an anthological type of structure because it focused on different students at different points of the school year. And I think if that approach had been given 6, 8, 10 episodes, I think it would have been equally interesting to see that. I would have to stick up for series kasi if you think about movies and TV shows and how they've progressed, 10 years ago in the US, there were only like 4, 5 broadcast networks and maybe 2 or 5 cable networks. Parang ganun lang siya eh. Parang you had a set amount of shows from those places that you could watch. But then with Netflix, not only did the number of shows increase, but the types of shows also. So now, parang if before yung metric lang natin siguro is yung mga fictional na scripted series, ngayon times 5 pa with documentary style, with documentary style. That's not more outfits and streaming platforms are making shows. And not only are they making more shows from the US market, they're making more internationally. So even from South Korea, binibigyan nila ng Netflix is giving it that kind of push. Even from the UK, even from actually even here even here in the Philippines, I think nag-iba rin yung landscape natin ng konti, especially because of the pandemic. And yeah, so I think everywhere the need for TV has increased in a way na with movies, one of the ways it's deemed profitable is with a theatrical release. And with TV shows, kasi you can make, I don't know specifically why, but you can make more kinds of shows independently somehow. And so with TV, there's really a demand. There's really a demand. There was even a term called peak TV because there were just so many TV shows coming out. So I would definitely say TV would be the more dominant format for the next few years.
It's very heartbreaking and sad to say talaga din na I agreed with that, na TV is going to become more dominant. Because to quote what MatPat said dun sa video niya na, we killed the MCU, don't worry, hindi pa naman siya patay. But then, to quote what he said, it's because that streaming services are already high, like yung Netflix, tapos padating na dito yung Disney Plus, tapos may HBO Go, yung ganon. Because the streaming services are already being created and are high on demand. A lot of more people rather, stay at home than go to the cinema to watch the movie. And then given that, given na there are already different platforms of streaming services and what they have to offer, parang ganun, parang may variety ka na eh. Parang hindi ka lang nasa isang restaurant tapos isa lang yung ino-offer nila, like let's say you go to a restaurant and then American lang yung ino-offer nila. Gusto mo ng Japanese, yung ganun. Wala sila nun. Gagawa pa sila ng sushi na gamit ng ng nachos or ewan. Kapag streaming service naman, yung mga TV, parang na siya, parang buffet na siya. You have everything. You got the action TV series, you got the horror TV series, yung ganun. And it's really sad talaga for me. Kasi film is a way to express someone's feelings, a way to express not only feelings, but a way to express also the background of the creator. It's hard. Sandali lang kasi hindi ko masyadong kilala si Kuya eh. Pero one movie. Perhaps if you're me na parang you're very political in a way pero you keep quiet about it, or you really you just really like a good action horror film. Kapag kaya mo, pero don't worry, wala tong jump scares or anything. Yung very political talaga para sa akin na movie is The Hunt. Kasi it really talks about and opens up about the problems of today, like yung mga politics or yung cancel culture. Kapag gusto mo ilabas yung galit mo, and gusto mo i-handle na lang ng mga characters, and ayaw mo na lang na mangyari sa buhay mo, especially ngayon na we're in the aftermath of the elections, not wanting to get political, but try The Hunt. Weirdly, I highly recommend The Hunt.
I think what would fit for Bea that I'd recommend is Orphan Black. Have you seen that?
I think I know about that kasi andun si Tatiana Maslany.
Long
before She-Hulk. Mga ilang seasons ba yan, Kuya?
Seasons, 10 episodes each. But I think that's already a very compact parang it's enough story na it's enough story to be worth its time, but it's not too long now. 100 episodes, if that's too long for you. Kasi it's actually a very heady premise. It's about a woman who finds herself in a world who finds herself meeting a community of clones. So it's a very it involves a lot of different characters centered on one performance especially. So the fact that one person, Tatiana Masayan, the fact that she's doing multiple roles with so much story, with so much complexity with each character, I think that's already a lot to carry in one show. And the fact that Orphan Black manages to do it for 5 seasons, and the fact that she won an Emmy for one of them, like, it really speaks volumes that for a TV show to do that. And in a way actually, even though it's billed as a sci-fi thriller, looking at these different characters, it manages to, at some points, it manages to dive into different tones while still maintaining that intensity, while still maintaining that thrill episode to episode. It can have some lightheartedness to it because that's just how unique the writing and the characterization is, and especially the lead performance. So I'd recommend Orphan Black to you.
Don't forget to follow Sinepanghalina's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
and TikTok, and subscribe to their YouTube channel.